Thank you for the invitation. Look, I'm very pleased to be here, and good to see so many familiar faces. Mr. Kandita, welcome, Dinarayan, and all of you. So I don't know why he's invited me, but he probably realized I think he's still looking for some money for Sigatoka town in the budget book. and I'm told that he hasn't found anything there. But as I said in my budget speech, and I do bring greetings from the Honorable Prime Minister, and I want to thank all of you for making yourselves available during the budget consultation. And one of the things that we benefited most was people's frank views about what they thought should be in the budget. And as a government, we are very pleased that there is so much confidence, so much freedom that exists now, and people are feeling much more freer and bolder to express their opinions about government policy, government's performance, and I think that's important. Very important for us, the government, and that's what we need in a democracy. And all that helps us to improve the services, the delivery, and what is needed. As I said, Sigatoka is a very important town. The areas around Sigatoka is a selling ground for Fiji. You produce a lot of food. You feed probably all the people in Biman in many ways, and those in overseas. So it's very important for us to look at Sigatoka, its infrastructure, and what needs to be done. I was shocked when I visited the Kavananasau road right up to Nambitu some months back. And I realized how important it was to fix those roads. I'm told that the road has been fixed, bus services started running. And these are the kind of things that we are trying to do throughout the country. The infrastructure deficit that we inherited, people say that I shouldn't talk about what happened in the past, but it's very important because it does mean that it will take us longer than what we thought to fix some of those things. So in the last two budgets, we tried to do as much as we can. If you look at the health infrastructure, one of the most dilapidated state of health infrastructure that we saw in this country ever. And in the last 2.5 years, we have fixed quite a bit of that. From CWM, from health centers. Masori Health Center was falling apart almost for 10, 12 years. 70,000 people dependent on that health center. We had to get the New Zealand government to fix it within a year. I went to Kandavu a couple of months back, and I saw the state of the Kandavu hospital, and I felt really sorry for the people. And now we got the Australian government to fix Kandavu hospital, and it should be completed by the end of this year. So we are looking at, in this budget, we have focused very clearly on health, education, water, roads, drainage. These are fundamental infrastructure that we need to improve throughout the country. And in the last 2.5 years, we have done a lot of work. But a lot more remains to be done. In this budget, we have allocated appropriate expenditure to do that. Apart from that, we realize that we also need to look after our people with respect to the cost of living. 2 years ago, we had to stabilize our finances. We did that. We are collecting good revenue now for government. We are able to borrow a little bit more to fix some of those bigger projects. So we are looking at the Nandi River Flood Elevation project. It's been in planning for 8-9 years. We are now accelerating it. Work will start next soon. We are fixing CWM Hospital. Again, for 8-9 years, but now in operation we should talk about it. The Australian government did an audit, and we are now getting a handle on it. We have 27 projects that will fix the hospital. And while we build and fix CWM, we're looking at a new national hospital. A lot of work has already gone there. It may take, it will be a project that will take us about 3 to 7 years, but we want to start the project as soon as possible, and we make some announcements in the budget in terms of our preparatory work, and that I think will be a game changer. The new specialty hospital to be built by the Indian government, that is going to start very soon. The land has been identified, the MOU is being signed. We've also signed the pharmacopoeia agreement for medicine with India, and very soon we will have a government arrangement where we will source a lot of the medicine from India and in a very cost-effective way. And that would mean that these shortages that we are experiencing around the country would not be an issue, we hope, in the future. Apart from the infrastructure, health and education, we make some reforms within the education sector. We are giving back the power, the economy, the independence to school management. 98-99% of the schools in this country were built by our forefathers, religious organizations, children organizations, community groups. And that relationship was completely broken. Government was giving grant, management being worried. You look at the condition of those schools now. Deteriorated, staff quarters, etc. So we're changing the formula. We're making it more flexible. Management will take control. They will decide. We're also allowing schools to now do their own fundraising as well. We brought parents together. We brought staff, students, parents together. So we're changing some of those issues there. The scholarship within the education sector that many of you know, there's no more loan scheme. It's all scholarship, merit-based. And we are now making sure that we send people into areas so that we have better planning for our manpower needs of the country. Otherwise, with the loan scheme, anybody wanted to get into any course and many of them didn't complete. We wasted so much money as a result of that. The only thing is the students are bonded. You get a scholarship, you save the country for that period. So these are some of the highlights of what's in the budget. It's a bold budget in the sense that we have increased expenditure a little bit. Some people are saying it's a bigger deficit, but we have prepared that for 2 years. Tax reform, we are collecting more revenue. Our forecast for revenue the last 2 years have been on target, in fact more than the forecast. We've collected more than the forecast. So we created that space to be able to do something now because globally we're seeing a lot of headwinds. Tariff war, Middle East war, if the world crisis goes up, the global economic slowdown, then we could be affected. Tourism, remittances. So, in anticipation of that, we are putting more money now into the economy. Good for businesses, good for farmers, good for everyone. So this is a budget that is giving that kind of balance and also addressing fundamentally some of the more urgent infrastructure issues. So I'll stop here and I want to hear more from you, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one question, Secretary. There are a lot of bare lands you can see around the country. Is there any land clearing programs to establish all those sort of lands for the sugarcane farm or the vegetable farm?
What we've done in this budget is you will see, so we're looking at 3 or 4 aspects. One, we want to make sure that we work with the landowners, TLTB, so each okay land, lease renewal, but there's a lot of misinformation that is going around. A lot of people are saying, oh, leases are not being renewed, farmers are going to lose their land, people in Sigatoka town would lose their land. Almost 90% of the agricultural leases have been renewed in the last 1 or 2 years. Last year, the government put in about $1.2 million to renew 180 agricultural leases where we failed, so the tenants did not have the ability to pay the premium. Government actually paid the premium. And the landowners also deserve a decent premium. If they are renewing the leases, they ought to also have a decent premium. And we are saying, where we feel the tenants have difficulty, we are providing subsidies. So in this budget, we are saying very clearly, subsidy for farmers and leaseholders. Government is introducing a 30% lease premium subsidy of up to 7,500 for farmers and leaseholders earning under 50,000 plus this to lease renewals. We have also restored CIBUL, the Committee on Better Utilization of Land. That's being reinstated, and in that we are providing an additional 4% lease rental payment, ensuring that landowners receive a total of 10%. So that 4%, the UCB is 6%. We are saying landowners must get 10% of the UCB, and that 4% will be subsidized by the government. So that's dealing with the agriculture business. On the land that needs to be opened up with respect to housing, residential, there is separate allocation where we want to make sure that more lots, residential lots, and houses are also available for, because we have a real housing crisis in almost all the urban centers. I'm not sure how big the problem is in Sigatoka. We just last week, 2 weeks ago, we provided leases to Rubu. We had promised that we will do that within 18 months to 2 years soon after coming into government, and we've done that. This year there will be a number of other projects. For example, formalization of 6 informal settlements in places like Tamela, Tore, Poti, Balram, Viaya, Sukoda, Bunika, and 4 new areas in Lubu side, Numbare, Dalaisaveli, and Dombati. Dombati is the old, 30-year settlement, and people still don't have, so we're going to do that as well. On top of that, we are providing about $2.2 million for the relocation and resettlement of people in the informal settlements, such as the Nambua Muslim League settlement, Batwanga. Landowners want the land. For example, Batwanga land is owned by the Bindis. They want, it's a prime industrial land. They want to do some big investments, but the people are there. So government responsibility to ensure that we are able to provide funding to relocate them. Then we are also looking at how we can entice bigger businesses to get into commercial farming. So in Banwalevu, in fact Banwalevu is booming, and I'm saying to a lot of businesses that are going to Banwalevu, and it is going to be one of the big growth centers for the next 20 years. The tourism development project worth $400 million that we put there for the next 10 years is starting very well. We are upgrading the Lambasa airport, a lot of other infrastructure plans, and the support that we are providing to the farmers. First time, apart from sugarcane farmers who got the highest cane price ever, we are providing subsidies for fertilizer and herbicide for all other farmers, vegetable farmers, dal farmers, cassava farmers, as well as making sure that farmers, those planting rice, get a minimum guaranteed price like those in the sugarcane sector. So that's pushed agriculture growth in a big way. In the last 2 years, we can see the Reserve Bank just came out of the report on Friday, just before the budget, and they're saying that for the first time, apart from tourism, resource sectors are growing. And we want to provide additional support and funding for the growth of this sector. In the last budget, we looked at the income side. So we raised the minimum wages, $4.50 last year, 1st of August, $5 1st of April, and I want to thank the business community for supporting it. The reasonable minimum wage, civil service salaries were increased in the last 1 year. If you add the 3% now and what we did in the last budget, almost a rise between 7 to 23% in 1 year. So that's raising a lot of business activities, consumption, and we deliberately wanted to do this that in this budget as well. So in terms of the package and how the budget is crafted, is actually protecting our people, our businesses from any international fallout, as well as addressing the infrastructural issues that exist: health, water, education, road. And it's going to happen in a big way. It's already happening. And we are hoping that in this budget, in the next 1.5 years or 2 years, a lot of these infrastructure deficit. Water is a big crisis. Sewage. 50% of the water that goes into the pipe system leaks out because of the old pipes deteriorating infrastructure within the water sector. So we've made some significant commitments in this budget to fix their leakages through a Spanish company. We're fixing the Kinoya water treatment plant. It no longer has a capacity to treat water. Basically, the effluents are all going into the ocean. And we've included big allocations in this budget, some through concessional financing, some through grants. That's now being fixed. These are things that have not just come overnight. It's been neglected for many, many years now. Then we have this big issue: drugs, HIV, crime coming together. We've made a big commitment in this budget, putting in about $14 million, first phase of $19 million in this budget, increasing the size of the police force by 1,000 officers. We now have a rate, international standard is about 300 police officers per 100,000 people. Ours will be double that once we have this 1,000 people on board, and we expect more police visibility, more police presence. And the new Commissioner of Police, as he said publicly, government has done its part, the police will have to do their part now. to make sure that we address drug, HIV, health ministry, we've allocated about $10 million. These are things that haven't just come overnight. So, as I said, this is a well thought out budget, addressing all sections of the problem that we have, support to our people, and I think if there is any international fallout, we will ride through it very, very well. The businesses need not worry. Keep on investing. Thank you. Plus the other good news of 8.75 FNP of paid, I think it's paid today. They are put into your accounts.
Thank you, Mr. Honorable Prasad, and first like to congratulate you for your and commend you for your fair and balanced budget towards the community and towards the consumer side and towards the employer side. Like you said, a few questions I think have been answered actually on agriculture. The price of the length of green tea is going down at the same time. You can see the alternative for agriculture farming, there's a boost of budget, we can see that. And also my concern has always been a concern in the last few budget submission. Yes, the President was not one of himself, of course, our team always been a concern about the water treatment plan, the upgrading of the water treatment plants, especially in Sigatoka, as you said, and as we all agree, many years it has been neglected. Neglected or less touched. So thank you for that, I appreciate that. And just looking at the budget, I understand there is a revenue side and the expenditure side. How would you justify the deficit in terms of almost like more than 800 million deficit on that? Number two, I just have a suggestion on the VMS system that we have. I believe it's been put on hold for some time, which was introduced by the previous government, but at this time would be reintroduced on that. So is there a certain quota? What we see is hard for the small business. We are focusing on the small business to set up the VMS system, the infrastructure cost, training cost, and all this is like, is it a way, like a certain, like a quota set out, like a less than like 50%, 50,000 annual revenue, like all that can be given a waiver, not a waiver on filing, but a different filing, annual filing, less than going to the infrastructure, IT infrastructure level. So is there any concession for the small business to implement such or bear such IT cost to meet the deadlines, meet the submission process of VMS?
Thank you. The question on deficit is a good one. We, in the first two budgets, we cut down the deficit from as high as 7% that we were running to about less than 4%. Last year's deficit was 3.6. So in 2 years, we were able to create that space. And we, for the first time in the last 2 years, we are earning more revenue. Our forecast of 3.9 billion is going to be on target. And our record in the last year, for the first time, compared to so many years before, our forecast on revenue, the actual revenue was more than what we forecasted in the budget. So we are doing a good, proper forecast assessment in the budget. So the 3.9 billion that we are saying in this budget, that target will be met, if not exceed. So from the revenue side, we are sure that there will be no shortfall. So our deficit target of 6% is our forecast. It may not be 6%. It can't go more than that, but it could be less. Now, if you look at the investments we are making, particularly the infrastructure, the targeted expenditure, reduction in VAT by 2.5%, we are putting about close to $800 million directly into the pockets of the people in 1 year. So, if you compare that with the deficit, it is made up of not only what we are giving directly to the people because of better growth, better revenue, but also quite a bit of that going into infrastructure. So it's a borrowing of that amount which is very, very targeted expenditure that will help us grow the economy even better. We forecasted it down a little bit from 3.4% to 3.2%, but my gut feeling is that we will end up with a higher growth if there is no real international impact of what's going on at the moment. Last year, our growth, we had revised it from 3.8 to 2.8%. We actually ended up with more than 2.8 or 3.8. But the final figures are showing that we would have had about 4% growth in 2024, which is a significant rate of growth compared to what we saw in New Zealand, for example, or Australia, which are two closer developed markets. So our policies in the last 2 years have worked well. And we knew what we wanted to do. So the fiscal space that we created, that is helping us now, and we deliberately are increasing the deficit because we want to fix the infrastructure. We can't delay it. So it's a very prudent policy stance that we've taken. First, we anticipate if there is any direct impact from the global slowdown. If we don't have the global slowdown, it is possible that we will end up with a higher growth rate. Plus, we would be able to earn additionally more revenue because we are putting all this money into the economy. The loss in the VAT revenue of 250 billion as a result of 2.5% reduction. Plus, remember, we are keeping 22 items zero VAT. Again, we are putting about $250 million from there into the pockets of the people. So that's 500 plus another 300 that we are giving directly to the people, apart from the infrastructure that we are funding from the additional revenue. So it's a very well thought out, crafted budget. I mean, I know some in the opposition have nothing else to say right now, so they're saying, oh, why are you running a higher deficit? Our debt to GDP ratio, which is a better measure of our debt sustainability, when we came in, it was 90% of our GDP. We brought it down to around 75-76%. Now we have projected that it will still be higher than what we had this year, but still lower than 80%. 10% lower than what we had when we came into government. So it's a very good position, in terms of. Plus, our inflation rate is also coming down. 1.3% in 2024 compared to 5.2% in 2023. And the figures for the first couple of months until May showing that it's even lower. Plus, we have a very low interest rate environment. Very, very low. That's helping businesses, that's helping investment. We were under a lot of pressure to raise interest rate. But we said, no, this is the Reserve Bank, and we advise 26 people is there, is a member of the Reserve Bank board, so they know. In fact, we are one of those countries, together with countries like Switzerland, where interest rate is one of the lowest in the world right now. And we can see the impact of it. As I said in the budget, $5.8 billion worth of investment is underway. Some projects have been completed, some are underway, and if all those projects come on board or begin taking shape, we will end up with a much higher growth rate than what we have. So the condition that we have created, confidence that is coming through the investors is big. We are doing some small things like making sure that our diaspora people come back. We reduced the passport, getting back the citizenship from 3,400 to 1,500. It's a signal. It's not, I know some of them can afford it, but we are saying to them, look, we want you to come back. Live here, reside here, work here, and invest here. And many of them are thinking of coming back. Many of them have come back. Many of them are investing in the country. So I hope that answers your question on deficit.
Let me just cut to the chase. So, we have a good budget. We have demonstrated in the last 2 years that this budget coming sound is really a good stimulant. What the people are asking is, we have the money to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that. But how you do it is the frustration faced by the public, because they want to see intangibility. So you have the money to build the roads, why isn't it being done in the year that you have allowed the money for? So I understand the procurement policies in the government is actually very cumbersome. And of course, for enterprise, all those processes, maybe there should be a way so that you can actually spend, and actually show that the work is being done. No, I'm just feeling strange because you're only 3 feet away from you, from me, and I'm asking, using a mic.
You sound like the opposition now. So that's a good question. And part of your job as an administrator is to fix things here in Sigatoka, as quickly as possible. You need to raise some money too. So I think Alicia's question is a good one. So we are saying that we need speed, we need quality. We don't want to be like what used to happen in the past. So our priority is very clear. We're not spending $80 million to fix Good Drive 5 kilometers over there. We're not building a hospital in Kiasi when we should have upgraded Sigatoka Hospital. So we are also allocating expenditure very carefully. But you are right, there is some delay, and I like what Prime Minister Modi said recently. He said, delay is the biggest enemy of development. So when budget is allocated, says, this is for this year. For example, we allocated about $6 million to do 1,000 boreholes in Viti level, 500 in the level, and 200 in the Maritime Islands. We were not able to do more than 20, I think, in the last this financial year. We provided additional funding. We fixed some in Sigatoka. Again, and we are saying that we need to deliver. So we've made some changes to the approval process in the budget so that the ministries have more autonomy, but we also want to make sure that funds are not being used. So the proper processes, the regulations regarding financial management will have to be followed carefully. But your point is a good one, that yes, the budget is there, but we need execution. So in the government, we are looking at carefully. The Prime Minister wants things to happen, I want things to happen, the Cabinet wants things to happen. And we're saying to our civil servants, we need the speed, we need the efficiency, we need the effectiveness. And I think there are very good civil servants who are around. And I think things will happen. It has happened. You know, if it's come like a sourdough, you've been living in Sigatoka for the last 15 years, you didn't complain about it. No, I'm joking. But you know, that's one example. And sometimes it's important that we get the feedback from it. So when I went, visited there, people told me. And I was surprised that it wasn't fixed, the buses were not running. I went to the reservoir, or the place where we are drinking water. Kambisi. I was shocked that people were drinking water from that dam, which was like, it was unhygienic, completely unhygienic. The kind of water, people were drinking the water. And there were boreholes, so we fixed those boreholes now.
Still waiting.
Where?
He's still waiting because MIT just arrived in the area.
Okay, so they are there. But you people better, advisory councillors, get together and push these things a bit faster. What about the other one?
They are trying, but they complain about the machine that we don't have enough machine.
Okay. But they are there now. Yeah, okay. So these are like examples of small projects, but they can have a lot of impact on the people. And we need a bit of speed. We need to take fast so that people's issues are resolved.
I really appreciate this budget that's announced by the Minister of Finance last week Friday. It's like a people's budget. Once it's implemented, it will be beneficial to the general public of Fiji. So I also like to congratulate this people's coalition government for the recognition given for justice of peace, $100 per month. Say, just a suggestion, in 2026-2027, if the Commissioner for Outs Fiji can be also be concluded. Thank you, Sir.
The commissioner of votes, our lawyers, they earn a lot of money, Yeah. No, we can look at that as well. We are now we provided funding, and we seriously believe in that because I think the JPs are doing a good job. They spend a lot of their time, and we want to support this with. It's not a big amount, $100 per month, but we feel that it's something that we have to do, so we include that in this budget.
Sorry, sir. Like I said, I'm the Assistant Prime Minister. First of all, I'd like to say Biman with this budget. Like today, we were having a prayer meeting, and every said this is the best budget we have seen throughout this country. Thank you so much for that. Just a few things just to see up this lovely afternoon, sir. Just a question of this minimum wages of $5. The minimum wages, does this applies also to the farmers, local farmers? Because some of the local farmers here, the wages $20 a day, $30 a day, which we see does it applies also to them? That's the first question. And secondly, it's the loan of the student, which now go back to the scholarship. Do you have a certain mark so that we can receive the scholarship from the government? And what about for those students who pass the exam but doesn't get the certain mark to have a scholarship? That is the second question, sir. And third, sir, you saying about the grant. We thank you so much, especially we, running for the grant around, we see which help us. And just like last year for us, market vendors, we were running around to fill in the form of the grant from the co-op. Starting from December, starting from last year, it's halfway through the year now. None of the result of the grant we feel came back to us. We still ask why? Because we're running around to go and pay our business license, go and register our business, which is the system that we apply for the budget, and the photocopies of the things we should do so we can meet by this system. So that is the fourth question because of the grant. Do you do it, suggest the government do that so we can get money from us because of the photocopy and when paying the license? We still waiting. Most of the market vendors, they came and asked me for it, and I said, I'm not the government. I tell you what you're going to do. But that is the situation. And it's also the rezoning of lease in the town. For example, we're asking the council to in our Presbyterian Methodist Church, our lease. If we could just rezone them, because there's two leases, one is block 24 and 25, which is the land that lies down along, which is also hard for us as a technologist to things for the churches. So if we could just rezone them sideways across the hill, not along the hill beside the ANZ, we are just asking from the branches. That is one of it, because we're asking the council, Mr. Anand, if knows about it. I know it's very hard to do, but we are carrying through this legislation. And lastly, sorry, it's a lot of question. As the assistant president of the market vendors, we already asked Mr. Anand, the chair, just for the bus stand. The bus stand is very small, which will take the public of Nangua and Nabosa from this small town. And also the rearranging of bus station for juice sellers. All before the way where the bus was parked, the business was good. But now they have introduced another way of parking, which they see that all the local buses on one side and the express stays on the other side. And normally we vendors, we are food sellers, we are targeting also the express, because most of the clients come from Subu, they buy from us also. During when the bus stand change, our business plan start to go slow. We thank them for the new installment of the table, the tech, just like Mr. Adis Naidu has said that he said that before we take the horse to the river to drink, but now the river is coming in and giving the horse to drink. We thank you for that. And lastly, I thank Mr. Adis Naidu. He has given his word. We asked him for the cooler to protect us, the families, so we can protect the state. So he has given his cooler. So what we are asking, if we could please the location of where to put that cooler, if you can just arrange with us. That's all for you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for raising all those very important issues. So, on the minimum wage, as I said earlier, we are very pleased that we have in consultation after a review raised the minimum wage in 2 steps or 3 steps. When we came in government 1st of January 2023, it went to $4. Last year it went to $4.50 and $5 this year, 1st of April. It's a national minimum wage, so it applies across the board. there are differences, in terms of kind of activity. I don't know whether you're talking about sugarcane farms or vegetable farms. So we are saying that that's the minimum wage that employees, regardless of what they do, should be paid. So I'll leave that there. Somebody asked me in Suba whether we are going to increase whether. I said no, not at this date. We just had the review 2 years ago, and if that needs to be done in the future, it will be based on a proper consultation review of what might happen in the future. On the next one was on your grants. I didn't quite get what grant you're talking about. This is from the Ministry of Economic Affairs or?
It's the cooperatives.
Cooperative.
The 1,000.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so just maybe just if you have any exact details of which grant you applied, we can check what's happening there. Thank you for raising that. And there are a number of ministries where these things can be looked at. I know there are Ministry of Trade and Commerce. So that's where I think you need to check on and why you haven't got it. The market, Mr. Nair, we should sort that out. You just thank him for doing a good job, so that's his job to do that. On the scholarships, that's a very good question. So, when we came into government, we replaced the loan scheme with a full scholarship. So, if I just give you some figures, we are now funding about 24,653 students, of which 11,593 are continuing students, and about 13,000 new students in this financial year. So, we wrote off about $650 million worth of debt for about 53,000 families. We were not getting much anyway, but this was a burden on a lot of families. So students coming out of, say, Sigatoka, Kawananasau, or somewhere, low income, getting a mark of 260 or 70, would not get a scholarship. They have to take loan, do a degree or diploma or whatever. After 3 years, come out with a debt of 30,000, 40,000, or depending on the course that they've done. And the day they start working, they have to start paying back. And many of them were struggling to pay. Plus, what was happening was we were not able to direct students into particular courses. So if somebody had 200 marks, could not get to the university, or could not get a scholarship, but go and become a mechanic, or a plumber, or a joiner, that student will also get a scholarship. Plus the allowance. So everybody who gets out of Form 7 or Form 6, there are avenues for them to get. So when we say, for medicine, you got to have this mark. If you don't have those marks, you got to do something else. For engineering, you have this mark. For teachers, you have this mark. For rural students, this year, for maritime and rural students, we've actually reduced the mark for degree studies from 250 to 240. We don't want to lower it too much because when they go to the university, which is what was happening before, $160 million went down the drain. We didn't have any record. We gave the money, loan, paid the fees, gave them allowance. Some of them didn't even enter the university. They went there for 1 week or 2 weeks, left the university, took the money. $160 million went down the drain. So So what we've done is to place all the enrollment scheme with a scholarship. So when they said 70% of the students last year got scholarship for Ethiopian students, and some people started jumping, they say, no, Indian students were not discriminated. Rubbish. Not a single student who had the mark, who qualified to enter the program, was denied a scholarship. So, if somebody is going to politics, doing a tourism course, or a catering course, they also get scholarship, and we increase the allowances for the students. So there are a number of different categories of scholarship, merit-based, other merit-based, students with special needs, equity and inclusion-based scholarship. This is one of the best schemes ever in the history of this country. Based on merit, it's based on the needs of the country, and everyone can get something. The only thing we do is bond. So if you do a course that is 3 years, you have to save for 4.5 years. Times 1.5. You send it to overseas, you save a longer boat because it's more expensive to send it to overseas. But every student coming out of the Form 7 or Form 6, even those who are coming out of Form 6, if they don't want to go and do Form 7, they have not passed Form 6, they can still go and do something and get the support and scholarship and the allowance and get a qualification. So that's the best scholarship scheme that we've got. And with probably the same amount of money that we're giving out of loan and not getting anything back, we are able to direct these students. Those who do not want to get the full scholarship, they have a choice. So if you have a son or a daughter and you say, I just want half the money, so I can reduce the bond. If you get a scholarship, if you study, you want to go back immediately after that, you want to go overseas, then you have to pay everything and you can go. Nobody stop you. There will be some when providing some flexibility. So if somebody says, I want to just stay for 2 years out of the 4.5 years, you pay for the 2.5 years that we go. Because we're spending a lot of money. We're putting in $153 million. And you can't just give scholarships and then next day they leave the country. You don't want that. All of you are paying for it. You want them to serve the country.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to give my hearty thanks to you and your teams there for the very nice budget. On behalf of my Honorable District Advisory Council, as I am the chairman of the Advisory Council, I have to look after the rural people. So as the Karnataka is about to get castle at the Narora village, I think if it is possible to increase for another half kilometer so that it can cater the hills of Narora and slope the other side. Because that is the most important place where it should be repaired, because every time when it rains it is washed away. And another thing, just west side of this, at Valley Road side, we have one iris crossing at Lawai for Naikoro and Nassau Roads. And that is about to be washed away. And the road, if anything can happen, that we can do something about that iris crossing and the roads of Korkoro and Nassau Road, which goes up to the Natotore Road, and the one youth camp is also there. So that road is needed. And I also want to talk about the overseas ceiling of at least 2 kilometers, just so that it covers the hills, and the dust problem will be away from the people who are staying on beside the road, and some other rural roads. As I told you before, that I'm looking after the rural people, and as that during my 2 years term, I came to know that the people in rural, they are really suffering about the roads. The water problem is getting a bit easy now, because most of the boreholes have been, some are completing, some are starting, and most of the goals are approved. But the road problem with, if you compare to Sariawada, harvesting season is just started, and the roads are still the same. And I have talked to the regional manager of Western FRA. They are waiting for the budget. And thank you very much for the Ministry for Housing for coming doing the scheme plan for the Orosila subdivision of 94 houses. That's the housing project. They have just did the scheme planning, and I know in the near future the people from that area will also get the list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, no other question, we would like to have this question because the minister has another 21
This last one.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Kalish and Honorable Minister. One is the President of PG College of GPs. Thank you, sir, for funding college. And I wish those money is going for preventive medicine, rather than going for dialysis and curative medicine. I really love that word that you have presented in the paper that is for primary and preventive medicine. I was speaking as a chief guest yesterday. A lot of us are dying very early in fish. And our intention, good intention is to get those things reversed in time to come. And one of the things is going into primary and preventive medicine. So in time to come, we live longer. Countries similar to Fiji, they live 84 years. We live here 69 years. And I'm very thankful to the Honorable Minister for allowing that P2P program to be ongoing, and 10 million to HIV AIDS. And even HIV AIDS, I prefer that money is given for health literacy, education in schools, all the villages, sporting community, rather than money going to find out the cases. So the papers will be defeated. So I want more emphasis on preventive medicine, prevention of drugs, prevention of NCDs, prevention of diabetes, prevention of hypertension. Otherwise, we'll be pouring more money in dialysis and managing those inpatient. So we'll be in that same cycle. Thank you for that contribution. Number two, sir, before I go on, I'm the president of Blue College Board of Governors. Thank you for allowing that fund to be managed by Board of Governors. Actually, my grandfather's name is still there. And we manage Dubu College Rugby Academy. And our boys will be playing in flying pigeons and bureau. So we are not any boys on the street, we're getting them in Dubu College, Dubu Academy. And previously we were poking a lot of money from our pocket. And those since that money will be managed, the government will be managed by Board of Governors. And my treasurer is financial director, financial controller of Shangri-La. And my manager is retired Shangri-La engineer. So we have very good team to, and we have capacity and capability to manage fund. And just thanking you for all this contribution positively that has come to Dubu College and FCDP. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Dr. you made a very important point about public health. So when we came into document, we asked the World Bank, in fact the Ministry of Finance, we asked the World Bank to do a review of the health situation in the country.
For me, I was in that meeting last year.
Yeah, and as you know, what they state in the report, that our health outcomes in the 70s, 80s and 90s was better than what we have now. In the last 20 years, public health was completely neglected, and that's the result of, so you're right, we're spending more money treating sick people in the hospital, when in fact we should avoid, we should do things so that people don't end up there in the hospital. And that's our focus, and we have a program through the World Bank as well, that we will be paying a lot more attention to public health and making sure that there is better education, better support, better facilities to reduce NCDs, the incidence of NCDs in the country. And you're right, I mean, one of the things that the World Bank report said that by the time people reach 50, the productivity is half. That means they are half as productive than what they should be at the age of 50. So thank you very much.
I'm just so depressed. My own doctor says the mortality rate is 69. That means I've got 4 years to live.
It's average. If more money coming, we'll do more preventive measures. You're already losing your weight.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and we thank you for the hour and a half you've given us. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any refreshment, but I'm sure the next stage will be better. Thank you all for coming. I should stand up. I'd like to thank all of you who have come here at the time to come and listen to the minister. And I hope you have got some of your own questions you haven't asked, but have been answered by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister. But once again, thank you so much. And all I can do, show you about the bus stop. There are some improvements being planned, and there will be, I've been using the bus stop since I was 5 years old, and remained like that ever since. So something will happen during the future as long as I can get very close to the Prime Minister and there is no reason why we can do. Thank you very much. And, if ever feel like meeting the Deputy Prime Minister again in the future, I'm sure we will continue to access. Thank you once again.